This is what our classroom is looking like, and I am missing you guys. Um, what we're actually going to be doing today is we are going to be going over some very difficult things with discussion on the Holocaust. So that is where we are going to be doing our notes on. Follow along. I've posted a PDF for you on Rockspace. Just fill in the blanks like we normally would do. And this is just how we're going to have to do things for a little bit. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through this type of lesson learning here soon. All right, so let's continue on. As you guys know, Nazis Germany, they rose to power, and we've already covered or on this slide right here. Hitler's ascension to power was mainly because of the issues from World War One, consequences of it, and the hate that we're able to generate and blame mainly on the Jewish population. So Nazi Germany is in power, and they're starting to establish policies that are going to impact the Jewish population as well as some other populations. To make sure the Germans were able to believe what was going on, and the Nazis wanted to make sure that they understood the message, they provided every German citizen a receiver or a radio. So who were German citizens? Well, those were only Germans of pure Aryan blood. Jews were stripped of being citizens. The Nuremberg laws were created to protect Germans and established Aryans as those that had citizenship. It created a hard times for the Jewish people, of course, in the area, and a young guy close to your age named Herschel Geisenpan, who is a Jew, murdered a German diplomat living in France. The Nazis used this as a way to generate anger and hate for the Jewish population and encourage the people of Germany to retaliate. And so on November 9th, 1938, we have Crystal Night, in which Germans destroyed over 1,000 synagogues, 7,500 stores. And then after that happened, when those people that were lost everything in the fires and rioting and looting, the Nazis went to say, hey, there's broken glass on the sidewalk here from your store. This is a danger to our society, so we are going to fine you for what you did. And they charged $400 million to the Jewish people for repairs for the things that the Germans destroyed themselves. And if they tried to protest, they were sent to the first camps, and 91 of them were killed in that protesting. Then, a few days later, all Jewish stores were officially closed. 3 days later, all Jewish students were expelled from schools. So who was sent to camps? Well, the handicapped, homosexuals, Jehovah Witnesses, Gypsies, political opponents, and Jews. And those are the folks that we are going to look at right now. It's not just the Jews that were sent. Sadly, one of the most horrific stories, well, they're all horrific, fellas, was Operation T4. It was the first use of mass killings, and it was done in 1939. This was done in hospitals, and how the Nazis claimed it was a mercy euthanasia. And what the Nazis did is they went in, dressed up as doctors, and said that they were going to transfer patients that needed additional care from the Germans. And those patients were people said that they had Down syndrome, for example, or people that might have been bipolar or suffering depression. And they were taken to a truck which had no windows. They were loaded into this truck, the back of the truck, and then the exhaust from that truck was put into the truck through a tube, and it would make those people die. There was at least 70,000 recorded deaths, but it was more than likely closer to 200,000. Jehovah Witnesses were also sent to the camps, but they were sent as voluntary prisoners. And over 12,000 Jehovah Witnesses were sent. Nearly 2,000 of them died. They could have left. All Nazi Germany said is you can leave this uh, situation you're in only if you denounce their faith. You serve in the military, you support our Nazi party, you pledge your allegiance to Hitler, and you stop meeting and practicing your faith. You do that, you can leave this camp. None of them did. And that brings a real question to your faith. I mean, if somebody said, hey, we are going to take you to a death camp, all you got to do is renounce your beliefs in your God and your faith, and then you can walk out. Would you do that? Um, I wonder how many of you would struggle with that. Or would you stay in a camp, or would you like follow in the lead of the Jehovah Witnesses, or would you go ahead and split off? Additionally, those that were sent to the camps were homosexuals. The Nazis opposed homosexuality. They created a law that said it would be 2 years of imprisonment. So why were they against it, homosexuality? Well, one, Germany's trying to create this strong, masculine, disciplined kind of image. So a homosexual had a stereotype of not having that, even though that is not true. Two, Nazis believed that homosexuality could be infection, a spreading infected disease that a homosexual man could cause another man to become homosexual. And then the big reason why, though, is the German birth rate was down from the death of 2 million German soldiers in World War One, and homosexuals was an easy target to stop that blame. Ironically, one of the gentlemen that helped Hitler rise to power was Ernst Röhm. He created the German stormtroopers, and when there were no more political opponents, Röhm and his partner were killed. When they would be sent to the camps, well, there was over 100,000 men that were arrested between the years of during these times. 78,000 between the years of 1937 and 39. They were sent to prisons, they were sent to mental hospitals, they were sent to camps. Thousands of gay men were corrected or cured of their homosexuality, according to the Nazis, by being castrated. Then German military had a policy of every man would be eligible for the draft. Those who had been convicted of homosexuality were used as cannon fodder in suicide missions, created in essence brigades in which they knew that there would be a high mortality rate in the attack or a high casualty rate. I mean, for Catholic Church, we're starting to go against some of the Nazi beliefs. 64 priests were convicted of being homosexuals to get them quiet and off of the church. Others that were sent to camps were gypsies because they were considered criminal nomadic groups. There was over 200,000 gypsies. Political opponents, if you speak against Nazi Germany, you're not going to be able to help them. So they wanted to make sure you were out of the way. Communists, socialists, journalists, anybody that opposed. And these were the first to go to the camps in Dachau in 1933. They were being told they were going there for protective custody. And this is going to begin in when World War II happens in 1939. Nazi Germany already had 27,000 political prisoners. Finally, let's start looking at the Jew. Now, the European Jew had been targets of anti-Semitism since the medieval periods. Even when the Black Death was taking place, Jews were blamed for that. Uh, they were blamed saying that they had poisoned wells, causing the spread of the Black Death. In the 1500s, it was a rumor was stipulated over and over that Jews kidnapped young Christian children, put them on crosses, and then let out their blood. And then as this young child would be bleeding, the Jews would collect their blood in bowls and cups and drink that blood, and then they would go ahead and finish killing off that Christian child and dispose of the body elsewhere. So anti-Semitism has been around in all of Europe since the medieval time frame. For the Jews to be blamed to the Germans. Um, and once they were identified during these Nuremberg laws that had been created by the Nazis, the Jews had to wear a yellow Star of David with them anytime they were out in public. And so immediately some Jews started wanting to leave because they realized the writing on the wall was not going to be good. But Germany made them pay flight fees to just get out of the country. Between 1933 and 1938, there were 169,000 Jews that left Germany. They were able to get out. Latin American countries took in some at 39,000. England took in some with like their Kinder transports. But by 1940, all escape routes could be closed, and then in 1941, Germany even made it even more impossible to leave because they realized some of these Jewish folks would be leaving Germany to fight in the war effort and fight Nazi Germany, and they did not want to add more troops to their enemies. Um, but prior to that closing off, there's some very disappointing stories of how the world reacted. One was the failed attempt of St. Louis, which took place in the news from May to June of 1939. It was a passenger boat with 930 Jewish passengers who had secured all the fees and paperwork needed to leave Nazi Germany. They had found that Cuba was going to take them. What they did not know is that the director of immigration had done their work illegally, sent visas illegally, and was pocketing the money that the Jewish passengers had paid. The Cuban government found out about it. And then when the St. Louis arrived in the harbor, Cuba changed its mind because those visas were done illegally by their own director of immigration, and said that the Jewish passengers could not get off the boat. And these people who were on the boat is like, hey, look, we have these visas. And so, what you have is these visas here. Let's get us off the boat. And the government was like, nope, no, you cannot hop off the boat. The captain of the ship realized he had to eventually get back. There was other requirements for him to do. But he said, you know what? We can go by the United States. We're right next to the United States. The United States is good people. And what happened, though, is the United States, on their way to Miami, Florida, were intercepted by the Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard said, no, no. The U.S. government said, no, you cannot come here. So all of those refugees were sent back to Europe, and out of the 930 that went over to Cuba, 254 will be killed upon their return. So nearly a third of those passengers on the boat, when they had safety in two different countries, they literally were within striking distance of different countries, and both of those countries did not take them in. But guys, we live in an amazing country and it's awesome. So, the USA, we're going to come to the rescue with a conference, right? It's going to be called the Evian Conference. President Roosevelt, presented the ideal of his conference. 32 countries are going to join in on the conference in 1938. But then President Roosevelt doesn't go, doesn't even send the Secretary of State to go. Instead, he sends a business friend to discuss, okay, what do we do with all of these Jewish refugees that are here? And here's the world's response. The Dominican Republic, they said, well, we'll take in a few of these refugees. Great Britain said they would do a small few. And again, they were doing their kinder transport. Canada said they will take some, only if they're farmers. Australia said, no, we don't have a racial problem, so we don't want a racial problem. If we had to choose, create a racial problem here, no, we won't take any. Venezuela said it would create issues with demographics, so they're not going to take any. The Netherlands and Denmark said we'll take some, but we will only take them on a temporary basis. So no, no, we're not going to really support you too much. But the United States, we came up with it and we said, you know what, we will do a quota of 40,000 and that's it. Otherwise, it could cause some major problems in the United States. So all countries agreed that they would look into the situation and continue to monitor it. That pretty much meant nobody was going to do much of anything when you had all these people that were trying to flee Germany. Hitler said, you know what? If you have issues with these people, I will load them up on luxury cruise ships and send them to you. You can deal with these criminals. And the rest of the world was like, no, wait, Hitler, come on. We're not, don't let's do anything overly drastic and bombastic such as that. I mean, it's not good what you're doing, but whoa, we don't want them. So, I mean, it's a really disappointing time that, the United States had a chance to accept all sorts of refugees. But it leads us to the question now. I mean, like we are looking in a situation of Syria or in where you have violence that's being taken place and you have Syrian refugees trying to escape their lives. Should the United States take those people in? Or let's look at some of our Latin American countries in which you have gang violence from drugs and stuff like that, and people are trying to literally flee and leave those situations, making themselves, doing a long trek to the United States, trying to escape that violence. And again, our country is once more saying, no. So, do we have a moral responsibility to help refugees? That is something that you guys need to consider and question. All right, guys, we are about halfway through these notes. Sorry it's taking long to get through. It is something we need to cover. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, why don't you take a moment, hit pause on this for a bit, and just stretch here for a little bit. Go listen to a song, get you a coffee or a soft drink or a little snack or something, but breathe in some fresh air. So yeah, let's just take a moment, hit pause, and come back to me in just a second. All right, see you in a second. Okay, so we are coming back. Hope you had a nice little break there. Jews were placed in ghettos, and Germany started establishing ghettos, especially in eastern of Germany. Once they started conquering these lands, like in Poland, they started establishing them because they wanted to round up all the Jewish population. And then one of the first things too they wanted to make sure that was done is that anybody that was a Jew was not going to have higher education than a fourth grade reading level. So one of the first groups of people that were killed were teachers and priests, even if they were like Catholic priests. And they were able to do this by the Gestapo, which was a secret police force. The ghettos, some of those more important ghettos or well-known ghettos was Warsaw, the rebellion that Warsaw did a little bit later. The revolt they had in 1943 was inspirational to many. Kovno, pre-Nazi occupation in that city, there was 40,000 Jews. Post-World War II, there was only 2,000 left. It was one of the harder hit areas. And then there was one that was in Czechoslovakia, in which it was truly a tragic story. In 1943, the Red Cross wanted to know the fate of 456 Danish Jews. Germany said, okay, hold on. We'll be happy to show you what their life looks like. Just give us a moment to get ourselves ready for your visit, and we will be happy to show you up. So before the Red Cross shows up, 1,000 people in that Jewish ghetto were sent to Auschwitz to make it less crowded. Then the Nazis went around and started planting some trees, painted houses, cleaning up, stocking people in the ghetto with food, and then saying, "Hey, we've been promising you we were going to take care of you all this time. Now we finally have been able to get this done. Here you go." The Red Cross arrives. They are impressed with the physical things that they're seeing. The Nazis even had encouraged some Jewish children to sing, and so there was a children's opera that was performed in front of the Red Cross. And of quote unquote normal life seems good for the Jews because it was all enacted by the Nazis. After the Red Cross leaves, believing, well, maybe the rights are being treated okay, all of those actors will be sent to Auschwitz and gassed. Unfortunately, the Jewish people that were living in Echo did not know they were part of actors. By 1942, Germany had established over 400 ghettos in Eastern Europe. They started creating the death camps, and in the death camps, um, people were rounded up for deportation. 80 to 100 Jews would be placed into a cattle car, railroad car. Those railroad cars would be hooked up to others, where a train would be carrying 1,000 to 5,000 Jewish people that were being deported from the ghetto to the death camp. Immediately upon arrival, the dead were thrown off because there would be some that died in transport, so those were immediately disposed of. But as soon as they got off the trains, every passenger had to go through what was called selection. And the sick, the elderly, children under the age of 16, and pregnant women were sent to selection. When they were sent to selection, that meant they were sent to the gas chambers. The chambers could hold up to 1,000 Jewish prisoners. Prisoners were walked into a small, like locker-looking room where German soldiers were told them, "Hey, we need you to strip of your clothes. We are going to give you a chance to shower. You have not had a chance to bathe for several days. We're going to give you a chance to bathe. So take off all your clothes. Remember where you place your stuff because you will be coming back, and then go on into that shower room." What they did not know is as they would walked into that shower room, that room would be sealed off. Their Zyklon B gas would be dropped, causing the Jewish prisoners to lose their ability to absorb oxygen, and most died within minutes. After 20 minutes, the doors were reopened because all the Jewish population that was in that room was dead. And it was a quick, efficient way of murdering innocent people. As I said, here was a train in which, right before the selection, immediately bodies were already thrown off, those that had passed away. Those are the box cars, as you can see here. These are where you would put 80 to 100 people in. So guys, I want you to take a few moments and think about you and your family. How many of you have younger siblings? You guys are close to the age of 16, and there's a few of you that look pretty baby-faced. And let's face it. I mean, think of you guys that look pretty baby-faced. Jack, JT, you guys look, are youthfully young-looking. A number of other guys on our roster look really young. You have been blessed with younger looks. You guys would be sent to selection. Think of your siblings. I mean, I'm sure some of you, how many of you have siblings under the age of 10? Think of how that sibling looks up to you. Is this your bubby? Do they look to you to be their protector, their provider, their big brother that keeps them safe? Now imagine you've been on a train with them for a couple of days. You don't know where your parents are. You come to a stop and immediately you are thrown off a train, and your younger brother, your younger sister is holding your hand, and they need you, their bubby, to give them confidence and give them a sense of security and a sense of safety and a sense of love. And then your younger sibling, I want you to really imagine this, they are ripped from your hand. And you don't know where they're going, but you hear their cries, you hear their screams as they're being taken away from you because they don't want to be taken away from you. And you're never going to see them again. And that's what happened to many many older brothers who were near your age. They never ever saw their younger siblings again. It had to be a horrific, emotional thing. And You guys, if you just take a moment to think about that, how difficult it would be, now imagine it in real life. So what was life like at the camps? Well, it was extremely tough. They were forced into hard labor. Some were sent into medical experiments, which were extremely unethical medical experiments. All of it, of course, was unethical and immoral. They were given little food, so numerous Jewish prisoners will die of starvation. They were subject to violence, just random killings, and the sanitary conditions were extremely poor. It was unsanitary living conditions. But they were told that work would set them free, and like the gates there would be like, hey, you keep working, you will find your freedom. The numbers, those are the numbers. Auschwitz-Birkenau, the most famous of all the camps, killed off 1.5 million Jewish people. At one point in the day, Auschwitz will start being able to be so efficient that they can kill 10,000 people a day and dispose of their bodies. It was horrific numbers. There are some other major camps right there, as you can see. Treblinka, almost at a. So the last days, Nazi Germany, as Allied forces are trying to move closer towards Berlin. Hitler's final solution is like, you know what? I'm going to continue to wipe those out. So as the Soviets, the British, the American armies are getting closer and closer to Berlin, and Nazi Germany has to condense. They actually take guys off their front to the death camps to do death marches to bring these prisoners closer to Berlin so they can continue to use them as forced labor, but also to make sure that they are going to wipe out every single European Jew. And in those forced marches, 250,000 Jews will be killed. At the time of liberation, because the armies are not able to retreat fast enough from American, British, and Soviet forces, that a number of people are going to be left at camps. Just soldiers are going to abandon their duties at the concentration camps. And so American, British, and Soviet forces will liberate camps. It is quite common that adult men and women's body weight was 68 pounds. And you can see 4 young men there. You can see everything about them. And just that is a disturbing body weight, 68 pounds for an adult full-size male. Here is some images of those that were recently liberated. And as you can see, they almost look like human skeleton. The image right here for me is a very emotional, powerful image in which, once more, we have a group of liberation. The Holocaust resulted in over 6 million Jews dying in the Holocaust. That is a number that is unreal number to fathom. 6 million. 1.5 million were the children under the age of 17. And those were people that were considered enemies of a state. 2 children right here are considered an enemy of the German state. It's tragic time. That's the Holocaust for us. That's all of our notes. We will continue looking at this side. Sorry, that we're not able to discuss this actually in the classroom together. Again, guys, I am completely missing you. This is a depressing topic, and it's depressing without you here. So we're going to have some more stuff to do with this. We have other genocides that we need to talk about, but I do hope that we will get together. Then, when we come back from notes, we'll eventually look at the creation of Israel. But until then, I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope you're staying safe, and we'll talk soon.